Welcome to Biologics Integrated Health Systems TV. My name is Gary McCoy and I'll be your host for this session, performing a resting metabolic rate assessment. So why perform an RMR assessment? Well, RMR assessments are the foundation for valid weight management programs. RMR is never less than 60% of a client's daily caloric needs. They're much more accurate than age-based formulas, simple and easy to perform, and will provide your client with immediate, actionable information to ensure weight loss. Remember too that RMR is not BMR, basal metabolic rate. The difference between the two measurements is that BMR is measured in a clinical setting, where a patient is unconscious or sleeping. BMR is generally 10% lower than RMR on average, and while the number provides some information for clinical dietitians, for our purposes and for the ease of testing, we measure RMR. There are 8 steps to performing a great RMR assessment. Let's cover these. Firstly, you want to ensure your client has fasted no food, drink, tobacco or stimulant use within an 8 to 12 hour period prior to the assessment. The best time to perform an assessment under these parameters is obviously first thing in the morning. It's okay for clients to drink water to stay hydrated, just be sure they have nothing to eat or drink prior, as the thermogenic effect of food will contribute to data above the qualifying resting metabolic rate number. Secondly, the subject must not perform strenuous exercise for an 8 to 12 hour period prior to RMR assessment. Why? Well, simply, the exercise they perform may become intense enough that during your assessment there is a rebuilding of muscle tissue occurring, or the subject's body may still be buffering lactate from the system, both of which will increase caloric expression during your assessment. Thirdly, your testing environment for RMR should be in a closed room, free of noise or distraction, where the client can rest comfortably while breathing. The key is free of noise or distraction, such as music or TV. A massage room is often perfect. A few things to remember here: if you stay in the room with the subject, your presence is a distraction. Irrespective of how quiet you are, you will distract the client. As soon as you see the first 3 measured breaths that ensures everything's working correctly, get out of the room. Music, forget that too. Irrespective of how soothing you may think it is, again, it's a distraction. What we're trying to do is provide the best chance for good data to be accrued. If you don't have the perfect room, make one with a cheap screen, recliner, and a set of unplugged noise-cancelling headphones. Point 4, we're measuring oxygen consumption. Any leak in the mask could invalidate our RMR number, so make sure the pneumatech, seal, and the fit of the mask are free of leaks. Make sure you have the right size mask for your client. Point 5, make sure the client is seated comfortably, like in this photo on a zero-gravity recliner, or, as earlier stated, supine or lying down. If seated, we want to ensure the shoulders are back and that the muscles used in respiration are not restricted in any manner. Point 6, explain to your client that they must breathe through the mouth. If they breathe only through their nose, there may not be enough volume to accurately create a reading. Point 7, once you leave the room, check back on the client at the 7-minute mark. You may have enough steady state data to complete the assessment. So what is steady state? Well, it's when you see that red RMR line flattening out horizontally. If it is still scattered at the 7-minute mark, leave the room and return later. No assessment should go longer than 20 minutes, and if the client doesn't show a steady state by that time, they may not. Check in with them after the assessment, ascertain if they were distracted or fidgeting in any way. Get the best information you can by then excluding that first 2 minutes of data. Use your exclusions to get a steady state you believe best represents them at the time of the assessment. As you can see, this assessment was a difficult one to work with. However, minutes 12 to 17 give us as close to a horizontal line steady state as possible. Once you've excluded the unstable data in the exclusions tab and you're comfortable that you've amassed roughly 5 minutes or more of steady state information, you'll have the screen that shows the foundational RMR number. Congratulations! However, your work is not done. This number alone is not the magic or actionable data that your client needs. What you need to get for them is the total daily caloric requirements, and this is done by adding a lifestyle multiplier to our foundational RMR number. It's a fact. Most clients are going to underestimate the amount of calories they ingest and overestimate the amount of activity they get. Questions you should ask are, tell me about your day. Do you sit at a desk or are you standing and moving about all day? Don't ask someone if they are busy because they will suppose mental activity as physical busyness. To ensure success, err on the side of success. Use the lower lifestyle activity level multiplier if there is any doubt. Then you'll have the most accurate and actionable total calories number for your client. In summary, the 8 steps. Make sure they're fasted for 8 to 12 hours and also avoid exercise in that period. Make sure you've got a good environment to perform the test. A good mask fit. Make sure your subject is still in a reclined or supine position. Make sure they breathe through their mouth. Capture a minimum of 5 minutes of steady state information. And then use that lowest lifestyle multiplier to err on the side of success for your client. So you have that number, so now what? Well, it's time for a brief look at nutritional programming from resting metabolic rate assessment. Firstly, your form will look something like this if you're using our ExoSmart 6.2 software. The form gives you the opportunity to input, along with the client, a structured caloric plan. In this example, the client is simply looking to create an energy imbalance or deficit of 250 kilocalories. That's going to add up to about half a pound of weight loss per week. If you create a 500 calorie deficit, for example, that'll equal about a pound a week of weight loss. That's the law of thermogenics at play. A quick note, you should never drop a client's calorie amount lower than their measured RMR number. Okay, so you figured out the mathematics of weight loss and weight gain for your client. You've presented them with a plan for caloric-based weight loss success. So what about meal plans, you may ask? Well, unless you're a licensed nutritionist or certified dietitian, you are not qualified to prescribe macronutrient proportions. That's right, you should be a licensed or certified nutritionist or dietitian based upon your local laws. One question we often get is, how often should you assess RMR? Well, how often you assess RMR really does depend on the client at hand. On average, we recommend not less than 4 assessments per year. If you have a need that exceeds the norm or determine, for example, with your client that weight loss doesn't appear to be happening as fast as it should, or it's happening too fast, it doesn't hurt to take another assessment. You may want to figure out a great reassessment price for your clients to allow that to happen. Remember, RMR is a dynamic number. If you begin to exercise, begin a caloric restriction, etc., RMR will begin a fluctuation based upon the body's desire to sustain homeostasis. Well, that's a brief overview into resting metabolic rate assessment. Good luck with your measurements. Use them. Don't guess it. Thanks for joining us. We'll look forward to you coming back to Biologics TV.